hold on.
Okay, now I think we're cooking.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. If you've jumped into a new feed, then you're probably in the right place. I'm just checking. Let's see here. All right. So I think we're back. Right at the end of my talk there on Romans, on 1 John. I'm going to tell you what happened. Just give me a second here. My wife, I think, took Levi out. And I think we're connected. It threw us out of the YouTube, threw us out of the feed. So it started a new one. So thank you all for shifting over. I'm going to explain to you very simply what happened. I was going to wait for my wife to come back in because she's taking Levi out. Tonight is the night of technical glitches, ladies and gentlemen. So, yes, Narnian 78, you're right. So funny how we were all connecting with you and how to connect with our new identity, and there was a disconnection. We were disconnected. Now, in the old days, we would attribute this to, we had a demonic attack and we would pray against it. But I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. My wife's here now.
I'm here. Sorry. I have to deal with the dog, and Mike got to get my blanket because it's getting cold. Sorry, everybody. This
is how things happen in a family operation. I quickly run over to the house. And Max is in for a variety of reasons. He is in this mode of like, I'm going to be helpful and I'm going to help around the house. And so he's vacuuming away. He's got TV, he's music or something playing.
Yep.
And he took a important router that sends the signal to this office for the internet connection, and he unplugged it and took everything that was there, unplugged it, moved it all.
Yep.
And I go, bro, what are you doing? We're in the live. So now he's in a spiral that he ruined the life.
Yes.
So that's what happened. So then everything trickled down. And you know what's funny is I walk by that. We have this. It's called a mesh where it sends from one end of the house to the other end of the house and then over to here. And I always wonder in my mind, what would happen if one of the kids just unplugged it while we were here? Yeah, what would happen?
Well, we now know.
So how are things looking in the comment section? People
I'm getting back logged into everything.
You're able to connect?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's exactly what happened. He unplugged to vacuum. That's what happened.
That's legitimately.
It's not complicated.
It's not. That's our life.
Yeah.
We love him very much, but Max just adds a flavor to us. Sorry, I'm rolling on my blanket.
Yeah, he sure does.
Yes.
All right. Well, why don't you get yourself situated?
I am situated now, sir.
I will. Well, I'll go ahead and dive into a question. Let me get into it.
Okay.
And then I'll come back to you. We'll get people coming back in if they
want to come back. Who knows? Join us. Don't join us. I don't even know anymore.
There's a funny saying that you and I have. That, well, I think it's funny, and it's just a total joke. It lightens the mood. But when you and I like we're having a tough time with Max or something's happening, we're stressed out, whatever, and one of us goes, I have to go run an errand.
Yep.
You'll go, I got to go run some errands, and I'll tell you if you don't come back, I understand.
Yes, we both say that. I'm like, I love you. If you don't come back, I'll keep it going. We both laugh.
Yeah, if you don't come back, I won't hold it against you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
but we're here, and
we are.
Listen, those of us, I'm not those of us, those of you that have been around with us for a while now know this is what happens.
Yeah, it's all right.
We lose the internet, a storm hits.
Storm hits.
We're out.
Mic goes out.
Mic goes out.
My in-ear
This
goes
is
out.
what happens. And you know what? You guys still love us. So thank you.
Yeah, it's part of the journey.
It is.
What are you going to do?
We're just a little operation over here, me and you.
Yes. Yeah, old Mark wouldn't
Oh, my
have. Old Mark
goodness.
would not be happy, but what are you going to do?
You know what? Listen. What are we going to do?
All right, let me get into some questions here. I think this one's interesting, and I like to take some time to respond, although I don't know how deep I'm going to get into it. But it's a question about online broadcasts and Christians that are doing videos and content online, kind of discernment culture is what the question's addressing. But this person has had significant OCD issues and anxiety. And so now they view a lot of Christian content online, and there's a lot of people that, and there's some very well-intentioned good people bringing out, church tragedies or ministry fallouts, sexual misconduct, those kind of things. And in watching all of that, after a while, it's taking a bit of a toll on him. And so I'd like to read and just kind of walk through this a little bit. Hi, Mark. I hope you're doing well. As always, I'm deeply encouraged by your content over the past few years, especially in the way you speak with clarity and compassion into issues like OCD, spiritual pressures, and the struggles many of us face in our walk with Jesus. There's something I've been reflecting on recently I'd really like to appreciate your thoughts on. It relates to a growing trend in the Christian online space, particularly on YouTube, where entire ministries are being built around exposing pastors or public Christian figures. While I recognize the need for discernment and accountability, it seems this has morphed into a culture of inspection. Bible teaching videos often get far less traction than content focused on scandal or error. That's always been true in this online space. It's even been true before then. It's why those magazines in the grocery aisle, when you check out the scandal magazines, why they sell so well. There is a sense in humanity, Christian and non-Christian, where we can get pulled toward the scandalous news, whereas things that we actually need to digest, we tend to look past. So it's like you do a Bible study that's good nutrition, but hey, the pastor that fell, it's the junk food, that we kind of want to feed on and hear about somebody's fallout. So I understand that, and it can also it can play a toll on you and your thinking. So anyways, Bible teaching videos often get far less traction than content focused on scandal or error. And some of these creators have built massive platforms off the back of controversy. Yeah, I've seen it. Interestingly and tragically, one major voice in this space was recently exposed for a double life and an affair. He has since shut down his channel. This raised a number of questions for me. What are your thoughts on the spiritual and psychological impact of these type of ministries? Do you think they're ultimately helpful or harmful, especially for believers who already wrestle with things like OCD, scrupulosity, or spiritual hypervigilance? Yeah, I think that ministries that are doing this, it would be helpful if people ideally, and sometimes I talk ideally just to kind of, ideally if there were pastors and mature people who had experience speaking to these issues, because sometimes people are speaking to the church scandals and they don't have church or ministry experience. It'd be nice to have some seasoned people that can address these things in helpful and fruitful ways. I'm not saying that those people are creating harm, but we are in a season where the unhealthy aspects of the church are being brought to the surface. And there's a lot of unhealthy patterns we've been living in. We've been serving a big machine, and the machine has been church growth. It's been the machine of performance. It's been the machine of big. And if you want to identify God in the American church, in the modern church, I don't agree with this, but I'm just saying this is the narrative. If you want to identify God, look for the big, large places that have a lot of influence. That's where God is blessing the most. The implication is small. It's, bless God that you got that, but there's also an aspect too where we're very unhealthy. We have not been valuing mental and emotional and relationship health. I don't think it's a number one priority. And I see in the early church we could talk about how the early church ran itself, but I see in the early church, it just had a love for each other. And loving each other takes work, it takes time, it takes spending time together. In our fast-paced world, we're just busy building these machines. And so in it, we're ignoring a lot of unhealthy things. So this is where a lot of affairs are going on because we're busy working, and our need to be loved is being put into our ministry work, right? Our need for belonging is being put into that. And so in that, it breeds addictions. It breeds undealt with rejection issues. I did some church consulting work for a time, and I have no interest in doing it again because I walked away it took a toll on my mental health. The things I saw, the things I witnessed. One of the things I want to tell people about church scandals and pastor scandals and stuff like that is there's often lots of layers to them, and there's different aspects to the story but in the public marketplace, when stories come out, it tends, when it gets out to the mob, and then everyone's just like throwing stones, and strife gets kicked up. It gets framed into like good guy, bad guy, kind of thing. It's understandable. If there's been sexual abuse or sexual misconduct, like that stuff needs to get dealt with. But we get into that like good guy, bad guy kind of framework, and it's multifaceted and it's multi-layered. I would go into a church situation and I was given, this is the scenario. This bad thing happened, this bad. And as I went deeper and deeper, I was like, oh, whoa. There's all this other stuff here going on. And there's multiple factors, multiple influences, and multiple people involved. And for my own mental health, I walked away from a lot of it because as I would go through it, I'm like, this thing is starting to turn on me. I'm like, I'm here to help. It's like, but one of the things I see is that there is a great deal of undetected narcissism that's in the church. And the modern church is a magnet for narcissism because narcissists have great skills in showing a grandiose picture and making people feel wonderful and feel drawn, have a great sense of loyalty to them. I think that we should probably, in learning from this journey, we should probably have narcissism tests that pastors in training, go into. Mm-hmm. The guy who wrote When Narcissism Invades the Church, I think is what it's called, Chuck DeGroat. A lot of good things in there. And he was talking about having a screening that they would do to really bring a detector of this. And this is really about character because narcissists don't really work on themselves, but they work on the things that we like, the big numbers, the big messages, the big things. But in a lot of these leaders, there's at least a heavy dose somewhere in the scale of narcissism going on. So anyway, it's for many OCD spinners, they can probably watch some of this, and then it spins them out as they see people, getting very strong and very passionate, aggressive, and calling out stuff, right? And some of it trades over into the political arena, which that's in the political arena. It is all that. It's like mudslinging. It's law. It's a bunch of lawyers arguing. And we just have to be aware when that gets into the church, because when we see a scandal come out and something happening, I think the appropriate response as we're trying to work through our emotions is sobriety, in a sense of like a sober sense of, because there's sadness, there's grief, there's anger, there's a lot of things that come up of soberness, of God, help me to be sober with my life in my journey. So some OCD kind of people can spin out, and they're very anxious. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen to me? Maybe I'll, they spin out, and that's not helpful. And that's not fruitful. It's bringing us back into a sober place. And I think the sober message is the church hasn't really been healthy, and we need to get there. And I don't know what that is going to look like for people's journey. I know for me, it was simplifying what I do, and I like being at home. I like being with my family. I work from home, and this is on our property, and so I found that Melissa and I, in our interaction, we find that a lot of ministries don't value health. They value their mission. And so the mission rules. And when the mission rules, it lets unhealthy things fester even more. And so I think there is a sobriety. I appreciate, now going back to your question, I appreciate people that are calling out the things or bringing out, I pray that they do it in sobriety and still maintain a compassionate a sense and a groundedness. That's up to them and God, how that's going to go. Some of them, I watch them and I'll be like, yeah, it's great. And then I'm like, whoa, where are you going with this? Nah, this isn't grounded. This isn't mature, the direction you're going with this. But that comes about with this kind of stuff. It's messy. It's going to bring out a lot of messes. There was a few years ago, there was a big fallout that happened at a church called IHOP, and Mike Bickle and I worked with a few people that had come out of there and connected with people that had been there and so forth, and the fallout. And they're going to be spending years and years and years healing from the fallout of what came out of just that. That's just one example. But I had my own experiences of seeing localized versions of unhealthy patterns, and it's very, very concerning. So anyways, let me get back to your, do you think it's helpful, harmful, especially for believers? I think it's a mixture. It's not a black and white thing. There's some people that are very, very helpful, that have a good heart, that want to bring about redemption. Sometimes people get thrown into it. They didn't ask for it. They just got thrown into it in the sense of like it showed up where they're now trying to help a victim of a situation. So do you think, let me find my place here. How do we balance healthy discernment with the danger of turning into spiritual watchdogs? As someone navigating OCD, I find these types of videos can be especially triggering. While I don't watch them obsessively, just a glimpse can stir anxiety, fear, or self-condemnation. Yeah, there's a sense of like, as you watch them, some people say, like as they watch it, a sense of like, oh my goodness, what if this spotlight what if this heavy kind of spotlight got turned onto me? And you start like spinning and spinning. I know I'm not alone in this. I'd love to hear your perspective on how to stay grounded in grace without becoming spiritually passive or over self-critical. There's also a personal layer I wanted to share. Before getting married, I struggled with pornography. Through God's grace, a layer of inner healing work and the support of my wife, I've experienced real freedom in that place, and I've been happily married for 7 years now, which that's awesome. That's wonderful. But stories of Christian leaders falling back into sin can still surface old fears, especially around fears around marriage, failure, and the possibility of everything falling apart. Like, oh my goodness, what if I do something wrong? What if my marriage falls apart, right? That is a spiral, and it's normal when you have shame, obsessive propensities for that spiral to happen. I call those shame attacks, right? It's important to learn how to navigate those. And the answer to those is not, don't worry, nothing's going to ever happen to you. You're just fine. It's the middle road, the grounded road is always, in my opinion, sobriety. Sobriety sees things for what they are. And so I think when I see leaders falling, before I'm tempted to throw a stone, before I'm tempted to act like I'm righteous and shout out, I just feel it important to kind of sometimes have a silence of sobriety, in the sense of take a deep breath and a pause. God have mercy on us as a church, because those fallouts affect us as the church, as the body of Christ. Those painful things, if there's been sexual abuse or spiritual abuse, there's victims of that are going to it takes a while. It takes years and years and years to heal from this kind of stuff. And then in the light of it, there's lots of cover up and people trying to get ahead of their sin kind of thing, get ahead of the story. And then it gets into legal matters, and then you're people in court, and Paul's like, why? Even Paul wrote, why are you guys going to court? Even back then, why are you guys going to court? We should be able to resolve these things. We have what we need to resolve these things, to heal through these things. So I don't know, just for me, I don't feel it's healthy for me to like jump into these fights and these arguments. I'll listen, I'll take in the news. I tend to grieve more about it. I just grieve. I grieve because a lot of these big influential ministries, they've been running in a lifestyle that's unhealthy. I know because I've met them. I've rubbed shoulders with some of them. They work long, they work hard, they work relentlessly. They take advantage of volunteers. And then there's bonds that form, unhealthy bonds, because it's just this whole framework is an unhealthy system. So anyway, you're in your place where then you start to have these like spin outs. What about me? What if something happens to me? What if I lose my marriage? A lot happening in our lives too. We're moving from the countryside to the city. We have new colleagues at work. My fears are also tied with relationship OCD, and at times I find it hard to navigate everyday interactions, especially with the opposite sex, without overthinking or feeling anxious. Some of this stems from messaging in the Christian world that suggests men should avoid any close connection with women, which, while aiming to preserve purity, can create isolation and fear. So another set of questions I've been wrestling with is, how do we pursue sexual integrity without living in fear or overly rigid boundaries? What does it look like to engage with others in freedom and love, even a culture that overemphasizes extreme caution? And how might someone with relationship OCD begin to trust themselves and others in a healthy, God-honoring way? Thank you so much for your ministry and the way you speak to these often overlooked areas. I personally believe there should be very respectable, very healthy boundaries when it comes to the opposite sex, just in general, And I even remember at the church I worked at in Connecticut, where we just, you're meeting with somebody, there's windows, there's no where you're just close the door, shades down kind of thing, driving alone, meeting alone kind of stuff, and just don't do that. And I think those are healthy patterns. Now, some of you're in the workforce, and you have opportunities to work. There's situations where you're working with a number of people. I think you can still manage, those healthy boundaries. And I'd want to work with a company that would honor those healthy boundaries. However, there's a whole segment within many of you that watch where you have anxious obsessiveness about interacting with the opposite sex. In fact, there's a question here from a sister who actually just got married this past year, and it's awesome. And forgive me, I'm going to take a tangent. I'll come back to this some more. But she says, we have these friends that we meet with. My husband, she's married now, her and her husband, they go and they meet with other couples, and they're great people. And she's like, one of the husbands, he's really good looking, and he takes care of himself. He's very, very, I don't know, I'm putting my own words into it, well manicured and all that. He's smart and he's funny, she writes. I want to be able to appreciate him as a friend in a healthy way, but I feel my mind bringing up so many thoughts and like intrusive thoughts that come in. Oh, I find him attractive. What does this mean, right? And Melissa and I have talked about this where, especially if you come from obsessive kind of battlegrounds, but we just feel in our conviction two things. One is that we need to learn to have healthy boundaries. And if those boundaries make somebody upset, too bad. It's like if some woman wants to talk to me alone, have this private thing that, it's like, no. And if that makes you upset, then that's fine. I'll face that because I'd rather have that than just violate the healthy boundaries of marriage, like not having these, these private communication pathways, which a lot of that breeds, is the breeding ground for unhealthy patterns to come up. So we value that. However, at the same time, that can't be lived out. It needs to be lived out in sobriety, not in anxiety. And there is a difference. It's a big difference because obsessive anxiety, it creates a sense of avoidance. And there's this fear where you're going to interact with people that are good looking. You're going to interact in life, and sometimes really super good looking people. We joke that they're like
a unicorn.
They're like a unicorn, like the rare endangered species, right?
You're going to look at it. It's a unicorn.
where there's, okay, that person's attractive. It doesn't have to mean anything. And I think that obsessive or not, I want to speak to everyone that you need experience. You see an attractive person and you see an attractive person, and it doesn't have to be fed into a further interpretation. Now, many people with obsessive battles, they get a lot of intrusive thoughts. So they see someone that's attractive, they have a sexual thought that comes in, or they have or maybe I should have been with this person kind of thought that enters in. You need practice in going, I don't have to feed that. I don't have to give room for that. That thought doesn't have to mean anything. I think that we honestly, and we saw this even in our church work, is that the opposite sex had a real hard time interacting with each other in just kind of normal brother and sister kind of ways. And I think it goes back to our brother and sister relationship growing up, because if you have a model of like, if you're a guy and you had a sister growing up, you have a little bit of a model if you had a healthy relationship.
I was just going to say, and if you had, a lot of us had fathers that were inappropriate, the way they interacted with waitresses or looked at other women, and we did not have good examples.
Yep.
So it was a creepy thing, and how you're interacting with the opposite sex became sexual because of your examples.
Yeah.
So then you feel awkward.
And then out of fear, like, I don't want to be creepy. I don't want to be creepy. You're afraid of yourself.
Right. And if you have a weird thought, oh my gosh, this person's so good looking. And maybe we laughed together.
Yep.
And you think, oh, do I like them? Am I acting like I like them? I tell that funny joke too. It's not a joke, it's a story. But of when I went to the doctor's office, remember?
The good looking doctor.
And he had the assistant that, I'm not kidding. I'm not even kidding. He was like Henry Cavill. He was like Superman.
Yeah.
So my doctor comes in. As soon as I got home, I was dying laughing. I had to tell Mark. My doctor, he's like, so I have an assistant with me today. And the assistant walks in.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
It was Henry Cavill, Superman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beefy,
Yep.
good looking.
Right.
And I was so uncomfortable because he was so good looking that I was acting like a weirdo in the doctor's office.
Yeah, right.
I was awkward. I was over talking because a good looking person was in the room. So then I was spinning that they could tell that I was acting like a weirdo. Because I've said this before on other podcasts. You don't really see good looking people like that in the world.
Yeah.
Like, most of us are average.
Right.
Slightly above, but we don't see like super good looking people. Oh, when you do, it's like, like I'm saying, it's like a unicorn.
Yep.
Anyway, I came home and I was dying laughing. I was like, babe, I was a weirdo because this person was so good looking. And we both get a chuckle out of it. Like, and I think it helps too that you and I talk about it in a way that like takes away the taboo of it. Like, if there's a good looking girl, I'm like, okay, she's really good. Like, and it makes you feel better. Like, okay, there's a good looking girl in the room. Right.
Yeah. And I think there's a couple thoughts I have. You and I have had to also work on our journey of, especially in the early stages of developing that trust.
Yes.
That like we love each other and we will choose to love each other. That's it. And that building that foundation. So people that are early on in marriage, especially, you're like, it's all new. So these intrusive thoughts can really, wreak havoc for a bit of like developing that practice of security, that I'm okay in this because I hung out with a couple and one of them's good looking, and learning to practice, because over time, then that doesn't have power over you.
Right. Because you're right, too, for us spinners, and maybe you're in a lull in your marriage and you connect with another couple and the other person's funny and you're relating to them and you're like, oh, shouldn't I have married someone like that? No. Yeah. You're going to connect with people on different ways. And anyway.
Right. And I think one of the hooks, though, and like what this guy was sharing here, is that obsessors are hypersensitive to things. So they see a scandal and they're like, and somebody worked with this coworker, and then this led to this and led to this. And then they start looking at their life and they're like, well, wait, I had that meeting on that well, maybe what if, and they start catastrophizing it.
Right. I did that. I was like, did they think that I liked him? I didn't mean, like, I was, and yes, it was okay. There was somebody good looking in the room, but it was like more, did I do something that acted weird? I don't want to dishonor Mark. Did I, like, it was, and then you helped me. We worked through it and whatever. It was a funny thing. Okay.
And for people that have this battleground that we're talking about, you need practice where you're in settings where this kicks up and you learn to not feed the fear, and you learn over time It's what exposure therapy actually looks like.
Totally.
And I think all across we all need work on this, and what it looks like. So anyway, I'm not sure if I broke down, everything he was sharing here, but I think that I have some concerns about the calling out of ministries and stuff like that. I have concerns about a ministry that only does that. But then again, it's like whatever it takes, if it takes that to bring something out to light that needs to be brought to light, then so be it, because we've been in some very unhealthy patterns. And for me, I didn't want to be a part of this unhealthy kind of system. And I'm thankful that we were able to create a space to teach and talk with you in this kind of format and just share and minister our hearts in this way, because we just watch too much dysfunction that breeds spiritual abuse, that breeds sexual immorality, that breeds this stuff, and don't mistake us. Like we are not a couple that, like takes sin lightly in these, especially in these areas. So, but I do realize that it can kick up a lot of fear and insecurity. And for a guy like you, you're wanting to do what's right. You're wanting to walk in compassion and grace, but this fear kicks up. Just keep redirecting yourself back to sobriety, which means, okay, I see it. I see what's happening. I see falling happening all around. Psalm 91 said you're going to see all kind of stuff to your left and to your right, but don't let fear, take you out about it coming near you. So I pray that, that'll be a blessing to your life and to your journey. Keep an eye on the super chats. I'm going to do one more. And I know we had so many technical difficulties. Like my mind is like just trying to get myself focused here in trying to address some of these questions. But this one is an interesting one. Got a brother here who's confused about discipline. Thank you for your grace-filled ministry. My question today concerns discipline and the everyday life of the believer. I come from a very rigid, harsh Pentecostal church where discipline was taught that you get up every day and you read your Bible at least 3 chapters, among other things. I broke away from that many years ago and currently embrace the organic Christianity, one believer to another in community. Hold on a second. My battery just died in my phone.
Let me tell you something, folks, okay?
This is it.
We're batting 1,000.
If you've stayed with us this long,
everybody
you are
is
a
just
saint.
so loving and kind to us.
Okay, I'm back.
Our vacation will be much deserved.
What I think is amazing is within the chaos that I can get a sentence out. That's what I think. I thank God for that. Okay, let me get to this because this is interesting. I broke away from that community, so now I'm just doing one believer to another in community, organic community kind of thing, which brings us up to today. There is a group called Fight Club. Fight Club. Wait a second. I haven't seen the whole movie, but I know I know the premise of the movie, and I thought you're not supposed to talk about Fight Club. Mm-hmm. I thought that's the rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. This is a group called Fight Club. It's a strong movement among many churches. One of the group's leaders in our area lives across the street from me. Okay, I'm just going to get a bit awkward here. When you join something with somebody who's your actual neighbor, and invited me into one of the Fight Club chapters. That sounds weird. I'm already kind of getting the weird.
Oh, wait, you have to be invited in?
The chapters.
Into a chapter.
Fight Club chapter. I went to the orientation night. This all sounds weird already. Mm-hmm. And I felt like it was absolute chaos. Without relationship, they're telling you what you're going to do, what the rules are, and you get 3 strikes, you're out of compliance to the rules. You're out of the program.
What's the strikes?
Okay.
I'm going to look it up right now.
But before I get into he says it.
Oh, okay.
Before I get into this is the Mark de Jesus flavor. Because I can see some good things even in some of the messiest, weird, strange things. I do see some value in like a boot camp kind of experience, where you just you do something that just stretches you. Some people need that.
Men, I think that's a good thing for men. Don't you think?
I think men and women.
Yeah.
Some kind of thing. And when I say boot camp, I don't mean army military. I mean like in an area for like I remember I went to a writer's mastermind and we had to workshop through our material and everyone critiqued it and you go around. My anxiety was just like happening all over the whole weekend for me. It was just, the whole thing was uncomfortable. It was a great experience though for me to stretch my abilities, stretch my my muscles in that area. Some kind of intensive around an area. Like somebody going to a retreat center, for an extended period of time to like work on some things in their life. And you're meeting new people or you're getting stretched. So I can see that being a valuable kind of experience. However, it gets cult-like really quick. Just letting you know. A lot of cult-like environments form out of these kind of things. Heavy control, heavy expectation, and hovering over your removal if you don't completely comply. It's just something to be aware of. So anyways, okay, so you were asking about what the requirements were. The leaders handed out the rules and said that you get 3 strikes. If you're out of compliance with the rules, you're out of the program. If that's the case, I'm already disqualified in God's kingdom, which I'm very aware I am not disqualified. Some of the requirements are you must tithe to a local church. Why is that number 1?
Interesting.
You must do your readings and physical fitness every day. You must abstain from alcohol. Mm-hmm. You're not allowed to look at porn during the chapter. So how do they
know?
How do they monitor that? Mm-hmm. What do they do? What do they do with liars? When it comes to disciplining yourself, if it were that easy, wouldn't everybody stop their addictions? They post messages to one another and the group on a private text app. The group leaders are sure to let everyone know when somebody gets 3 strikes and usually with a comment or 2. Recently, I met a man who attends Fight Club in our area. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing.
It is kind of funny.
Reading Fight Club. I know nothing about this, so you don't have to write to me if you're in a chapter. I did not know him. He was an acquaintance of someone I was with. I told him this is a wonderful group, and he found great connections in the group, but it just isn't for me. He got really offended. Yeah, that's
where it's controlling then, and it's like we have all the ways and the answers and all the things. And danger, Will Robbins. Then get far away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can't say it any better than how you just said it. He told me that it would discipline me and that he was more disciplined, even to the point that he went out and prayed with someone this chapter. Apparently, that was the emphasis on the 12th chapter. He attended to learn to pray with someone. Okay. I don't have an issue with that, but I don't understand why it takes a chapter of Fight Club to go out.
Wait, hold up. Wait a minute.
And pray with someone in the name of being disciplined. I felt like it was paramilitary and that many of the men there had never been in a position of authority and they really relished that. I think that's
interesting.
I think that's a good observation. Yeah. You give a man with authority who hasn't had a sober training in dealing with authority, and things can get really dicey. Doesn't the Bible say that do not love the world or the things of this world? I don't know that that's applying that to this. I believe so many of these things that we claim in the name of discipline are really this macho military mindset we have taken from the world. I think that there is a masculine movements, right, of encouraging men to be men. And there is a lot of it that I would go, it's great. That mentality of helping men to connect to adventure, to strength. Most men don't have experiences of hunting or doing something outdoors. We're in offices all the time, and our sense of leadership, adventure, stretching ourselves. So sometimes having a boot camp kind of experience, hey, we're going to exercise, we're going to do these things. I just don't like the rigid control around it. There was, when we had our church from 2009-ish to 2015, little church, small church, at the largest, it was up to like, I want to say maybe 80 at its biggest, okay? So that's what I mean when I say small. But I started a men's group, And I said, I just wanted to invest in the guys. We had a lot of male passivity, a lot of passive men, and I wanted to just make an investment in them and intentionally. So we would meet, I forget, regularly. It was like maybe every 2 weeks or something. And I would do a meeting. We would just talk and discuss. And it was a way to just get them talking, get them sharing. It was great. And then one of the other activities would be something we went out and would do. And there was a number of guys that when it came to the activities, they would bail out. Like, I'm not going to be there. I can't make it. I'm not going to do it. There was a lot of fear of just the unknown. And like one time we just did a hike together. One time I just took them paintballing. We're just going to go play paintball, shoot each other, and but there were bonding experiences. So I saw a lot of value in it. I don't like the control thing. I just don't like it. I stay as far away from that as possible. The problem is that controlling people, they build followings. They get a lot of loyalty out of it. And I'm super concerned about those kind of things. But at the same time, guys that have like this kind of, hey, we're going to be men, we're going to go hunting, we're going to go, go lift weights. I think there is a part of that every guy could utilize in their life. And so even in my simple day-to-day routine, I try to do some things that physically stretch me. Whether it's something in the yard or learning a new skill or stretching. I got into woodworking, or I do projects around the house, and people even rebuilding some stuff here in the office. And somebody asked me, how do you know how to do some of that stuff? Well, a lot of it was just trial and error. And some of it I actually started to like and learned along the way. And I don't think we have enough of that. So cult-like weird groups, don't let that take away from the beauty of what good masculine experiences could be. I agree with you. This sounds weird. The chapter thing, like what are we joining here? What is this? What is this all about? Macho-ness does not produce like long-term discipline necessarily either. But I think that men tapping into testosterone, tapping into strength, tapping into adventure, stretching yourself can do powerful things though in how you feel about yourself as a man, because men need encouragement. Men are eroding today under very silent depression. They're living as drones. Many of them are dying quietly and no one knows it. No one knows the suffering and stuff they're going to. Now, it's not that women aren't. Women are more prone though to vocalize it, whereas men, you may never hear what they're struggling with, which is very encouraging to me because I have a lot of men coming to my channel, even in my community when I do Q&As. I've seen a bunch of them in there. In fact, this past Thursday, one of the ladies even commented on that. It's so wonderful to see the men here in the Zoom call that I was doing. And it's very, very encouraging. However, when I started and I looked at the metrics, if you were to look at like the algorithm of visitors to my website, it was like 70%, 75% women, right? So there is a place where a man needs to be loved, but he also needs to feel respected. Even in the Bible talks about wives submit to your husbands in honor, but there's a sense of respect, of respecting who he is. There is a place where a man longs to feel respected. He wants to be loved, but he wants to be respected. And many don't, and they don't have a sense of respect for themselves, and their sense of worth and value is very, very low. So I found sometimes these kind of activities, I'd see a guy wake up, and I was like, bro, this is awesome. You did it. I even see this with my son, Max, who gets very anxious over any new things. And the rounds of talking I have to do with him and working through is extensive, even just for sometimes a very simple activity. But when he finally steps up and does it, I celebrate. Man, didn't you look what you did? It's not whether it went great or not. It's like celebrating that win because you get that embedded in you, and that can be transferred into building your sense of faith and building your sense of taking a step. So I think that while there is a lot of cult-like things here, I do think that, men getting together, encouraging each other, and not just sitting down reading the Bible, doing things together that give room for expression, give room for expansion of hobbies, of things that you build an all-round kind of person. I could go on and on about it. I believe so many of these things. Okay, reading through the Bible and listening to your podcast, I don't get that from Jesus Christ, what he was like. At the end of the chapter, the Fight Club gives an award to one member who's performed and been locked in the most. I'm staying away from that because I'm still in my heart healing journey. I've been hearing for years about disciplining yourself and hammering yourself, all in the name of biblical discipline. What is the biblical perspective of discipline, and how does that relate to each believer in our everyday life? Thank you so much. Well, yeah, discipline's a part of the Bible. Hebrews brings out discipline, and the discipline that comes from a father to a son. And it even goes into where that chastisement, where that correction that takes place. And the Hebrew writer says, you're not illegitimate children. You're sons. And you see the sonship through the loving discipline. And discipline we think of discipline as either yelling at yourself to do something or someone like condemningly correcting you. But discipline comes about with instruction, being instructed. That starts with a father to the children. It is my job in my home, no one else's job, to initiate the arena of discipline and instruction in the household. And yes, my wife does that. And yes, she brings that. It's not that she doesn't, but it's my job to bring initiation of that and a sense of loving discipline. And that's the Bible talks about, fathers, beware about being like angry with your sons, right? But nurture them in the admonition of the Lord. That's a father's job that he brings about. So if your father didn't love you and show you instruction in a fruitful way, you're going to have a hard time understanding the discipline of God. You're going to be afraid of him. You're just going to be terrified of him. And for most of my life, that was the equation for me. I didn't know. I just like God's discipline. Like, oh, he's gonna hit me. He's gonna strike me. He's gonna here we go. When's the hammer gonna fall? That comes out of me not understanding the loving connection of what fathers bring. Fathers bring about the loving environment with their words, with their affirmation, with their presence. He calls out identity, but then there's instruction. Most of us don't know how to do a lot of things. We're going on, I call it YouTube dad. You're looking up like, oh, this thing broke. How do I? And thank goodness we live in a culture where you can look up just about anything and get instruction on it. And there's even guys who've developed channels around, I'm going to tell you stuff that your father didn't teach you. Like I was even, I got Max a suit because I wanted him to understand like wearing a suit. And we walked through like putting the vest on and putting the tie. And I was showing him the tie. You tie it. We'll get there and getting him to tie it for himself. But I was just showing him through those simple things and instruction on how to deal with your emotions, how to deal with life. So discipline, it works best when it's done out of an environment of love. Discipline is an act of love. When you make a decision to do something, it's an act of love. I go, I need to do some exercise today. I'd planned on it. I don't feel like doing it. Now, some people go, get your butt out there. And you scream at yourself. Okay. Or you can just in love go, that's what you feel. That's all right. We're still go ahead and step in and do it anyway. Right. That I feel is the sweet spot of learning how to activate discipline. But if love has been deeply damaged in somebody's life, discipline is terrifying. And or we try to discipline. There's many rigid, super legalistic, rigid discipliners, right? They're doing it to try to feel loved before God. If I do this, if I get this right, if I get this down, right? My spiritual life is good because I get in the Word every day. I read my 3 chapters. I check those boxes off. I'm good with God. That's a very hypnotic trap that we can all get locked into, can't we? I'm loved. I'm good because I did something good today. That we get a sense of like, and I'm not shunning that feeling of feeling good. It's good to feel good, but just be aware of that. Like now I'm good because then when I didn't show up well or I didn't, now God's gonna beat me. And discipline can very easily become law-based. It can become, many people are trying to discipline themselves by force, like this intense force that they're not walking in grace and love. So I talk about this in my book, The God Loves Me, I Love Myself, about making decisions out of love. Like what happens when in an environment of love, as you learn to connect to God's love, it changes your decision making because you see value in your life. You see that you matter. And a lot of men don't feel that they matter. They don't think their life matters. They don't think their voice matters, so they don't bother. And they're deeply afraid of failure. They're afraid of messing up. They're afraid of making a mistake. Mistakes are failure, and failure is the end. That's the equation that goes in their mind. Shame clouds it, so don't bother at all. So I've been encouraging the men I work with, you got to just take a step. And we're going to celebrate you taking a step. And whether you did it perfectly or not, that's not the thing. It's all about learning as you practice. Because I would say women agree with this too, but we learn in the experience. I could tell you all day long about how to ride a bike, how a bike is made, how to ride it, all the things and the mechanisms. Very soon into this, I got to get you on a bike. Got to get you going. Got to get you. And then you fall. Okay. All right. This time, try this. Right? We got to get you in that. And so with my family, with my kids, I'm very like, you need the experience. You need to go do it. Abby in school, and there's a bunch of things that she's done and projects she worked on. And it's like, cheer her on. By the end of the day, you got to do it. Step in, get those wins, build that. So that discipline gets built within you, and it's best done out of love relationship. So I've lived in both worlds, where I've lived in discipline to try to prove myself in performance and perfectionism. And I've lived in discipline as an act of love. And it's so much more beautiful and it's so much more powerful. And you make your decisions from a place that produces more long-term fruit. Does that make sense?
So good, babe. Yeah, so good.
And I know we started this off in Fight Club, but I think that I think I want to encourage other people in this too. I can see good in some things. There's ministries I was connected to that were I didn't know they over time, like they're cults.
They were, yes.
They're straight up cults.
Yep.
And I was connected to them.
Mm-hmm. That we sometimes have a little embarrassment we work through.
Yeah, embarrassing.
We do.
Yeah.
But it's you and I have talked about that a lot, though. It's like it was part of our journey.
But I can see the good I learned in it too. I can see the good things I learned.
Yep.
And I take the learning with me.
Yeah.
Right? So I can even see a group like this. I get why they're doing this. They're like, men need this. Yup. Men need this. Yup. Men need this. Yup. So this is what we're going to do. This and this and this.
At least they're standing in and trying to do something.
Yeah, but I don't know about all these things.
Right.
But the heart of what you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
So maybe maybe it's not Fight Club. Maybe the very name of it, it's like, what do we do?
You know what though? I do appreciate where they're trying to make men again.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what you were just stating, that we do need that men weren't taught.
Yeah, and we're living in a culture that's warring against men. Mm-hmm. And I will even venture to say there's a spirit of this age that hates men. Mm-hmm. Okay, and hates everything a man represents. Mm-hmm. Right. And out of that, there's battles, even down to people's identity and sexuality, right? And so the solution is we feed the righteousness of God. It's like I talked about in the Bible study, that we just keep feeding who we really are, feeding that nature of Christ within us. But men need other men to talk to. Yeah. And share and connect with and just be encouraged.
I think too, when I look at you and, I've looked at other men in my life, we all feel this, but I feel like men more so need that sense of someone has their back.
100%.
We all need it, but there is something extra that I feel like a man having a real brother, mm-hmm. knowing that he can count on a man, which is why the military is so inviting. Mm-hmm. When you watch the videos and you see how they are with each other, and they would literally die for each other. Yeah. There is something so very powerful about that. Yeah. That a lot of us that grew up in complex trauma homes did not have in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And we're longing for that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So I think it all goes back to like organic things. Like we see the church problems going on. We just need organic, like just believers just getting together. Can we get back to the simple things? We got all these like complex programs and buildings and stuff. And I'm not saying all that's evil. I just says it gets complicated, and then the machine takes over. Get back to simple meeting, simple getting together,
just
simple
building
relationship. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Focus on that. It'll lead to good places. Do you have any anything from the live comment community that you want to? Okay.
I do not. Someone asked what you think of Jordan Peterson.
I think that he said a lot of good things initially. Mm-hmm. Jordan Peterson came on the scene because he took a stand in his college that he worked at. He was a professor, and he filmed his talks. I was very moved when I watched him because he was at the university, and for lack of a better term, the pro-transgender kind of movement was like literally physically in his face yelling at him. And you can go look it up online. And when I watched him, I'm not saying he's a Christian, but when I watched him, I go, that is an example of Christ-like, because he was standing for what was true, but there was a sense of compassion that he was showing. But that's the beginning. But it doesn't look like he's a believer. So he says some things that could be helpful to people. I personally feel like he talks in circles a lot and says a lot. He just says a lot of big words. And I think people need simple kind of things.
Yeah. And he's been doing the thing now where it's like, what does believe mean? And you're like, Jordan, what's going on with you?
Yeah.
But you did say something. We didn't watch the full thing. We haven't been watching full things about him. We catch little glimpses of things. But you said something that I thought was really good when you watched a quick clip of that one thing where he's in that whatever that, I don't know if it's a channel, I don't know who does it, where you sit in a hot seat and then everybody in the room can kind of come up and hit you hard with questions.
Right. That kind of stuff stresses me out.
He should not have been the person that represented asking a Christian.
Right.
He can't answer the question whether he is or not. He has not declared that. To me, he is not.
Right.
Unless someone has heard him say otherwise, I don't think he is. But what was disturbing about it is how upset he got with the people asking him questions. And you said something that I was like, yeah, that's really right on. And it goes back to what you just said in the clip that you watched of him from years ago. Is he really at this stage should be fathering? And he should have taken a fathering presence with these kids and been able to really exemplify what you saw in years prior of where he stood in a place of showing the fruit of the Spirit.
Right.
And he doesn't seem like he can do that anymore.
Yeah, that's the part that concerns me is when I saw the kid got a little snappy, but he was snappy too, and he was answering weird. Yeah. And he does that well, what does believe mean? You know, like that thing like, where he kind of does this thing with his fingers, kind of, and it's like now we're going into these circles that will make OCDers spin out even more. But the kid needs people who go into those kind of environments. First of all, I'm not that kind of person. That kind of stuff stresses me out.
You could. I beg to differ, sir, because when you've done meetups like that and people just get up and grab the mic and start asking you questions, you soar.
Well, I can answer questions, but like arguing with an atheist,
okay.
And some of the things they're arguing about, I'm like, I don't know. I don't. You want to sit here and like what's that guy's name? Wes Huff. You know, he'll debate about the origin,
and he stays so calm and peaceful and like.
Well, that's the key thing.
Yes,
is having a maturity to handle it. But anyways, he digs deep into all that. I kind of go, I trust the Bible. It's the Word of God.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need long things of the history of this. I just trust it, and that's okay. But anyway. He has gotten going back to Jordan. He has gotten very like angry. There's a lot of anger coming out of him. He's had a lot of struggles that he's had. Depression. He had benzo withdrawals. He's had his share of being attacked and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if I hear something good that he says, I go, okay, that's a good point. It doesn't mean that I'm being discipled by him, and I think that's my premise, and maybe other people think differently. I can hear something somebody says. It doesn't mean I'm being discipled by them, but I can go, oh, that's a good point. And I I do appreciate people that are trying to preserve righteousness in the land. But there's a difference between respecting the ways of God and actually being a follower of Christ, right? Because you have people in society that will respect. There's a lot of people, podcasts and stuff like that they may not like overtly realize it, but they're respectful of the values of God. In fact, this is my opinion on America. The average American, if I was to describe an American person, respects the ways of God and biblical ways of God, but yet they may not necessarily personally follow it themselves.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep.
Does that make sense? So like I remember when I was a youth pastor, or even later on, I would get asked to pray. Remember our first date was on the graduation. I remember that I got asked to pray at a baseball game, not big, like Little League or whatever. They have this big opening day event. I go, right? And now to lead us in prayer, the whole place, hats off, heads down, right? Does that mean they're all Christians? No, but they respect that. Now, many could argue that's drastically changing in America. The tide is shifting as far as, and I say, okay, that's my concern too. So Jordan Peterson, kind of fits into that. I heard him talk about some stuff in the New Testament, some things about Jesus. He has a talk that he did on Cain and Abel. And I was like, dude, that's really good. That was really good, right? But I don't think he's a Christian.
No, I don't either.
So
he's wrestling with it for sure. Well, your son has joined the chat.
Maximus, what do you have to say, son?
Maximus said,
is he apologizing?
No, he said, hi, mom and dad. And everybody is saying hi to him. And he said that it's great to be here. He's glad to be here. And he did a bunch of emojis. And he's so cute.
Let me pull it up. I got to see this. I don't see.
Joshua. You don't see him? It's at the bottom. Joshua Miller said that it was on Jubilee. That's the YouTube channel, and they changed the title from Christian versus Atheist to Jordan Peterson versus Atheist.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I you know what the struggle is? I feel the struggle is people are looking for voices to look up to. We're trying to find people to look up to that speak truth.
Right.
Are you with me? Or are you in the,
no,
I'm
I'm sorry. Sorry. Yep. There's Max. I just finished vacuuming.
Yeah, the vacuuming's what got you in trouble, buddy.
Yes, Max. Hopefully you put it. You said sorry about truth. Go ahead.
No, I think that people, and I understand this too, because sometimes I'm looking for like biblical teachers that will teach things mentally healthy.
Yes.
And people ask me, who do you listen to? And I go, I struggle to find my own too. I might get a little bit from this person, a little bit from that person. I have to do a lot of like spitting out the bones kind of thing, of chewing the meat, spit out the bones kind of thing. But I think people are looking for voices that speak and hold their values. Yeah,
and are stable and represent things well. And we sometimes we look and we go, why was that person chosen? I don't.
Right. Like
it gets honestly, it gets embarrassing sometimes. Like I'm not throwing my name in the hat at all.
Yeah.
But
people get frustrated because like they'll Larry King, that's kind of an old analogy.
Yeah.
But he would go on and he's like, to talk about, gay marriage, we're going to have Joel Osteen come here. And Joel's like, I don't know, Larry.
It doesn't really give a clear answer. And you're like, come on.
Can we get somebody else to talk?
Like, why is he the representation? And listen, I've gotten stuff from Joel. When we went through a tough time.
Because he's the big ministry. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Today's culture, you're big, you're influential, money, all that, and that's God. And so, and it's like, I can take Joel's encouragement, but it's like this,
Yes.
I mean, people joke, he holds up the Bible, this is my Bible, and and then he proceeds to not mention anything about
the Bible. He's an encourager. I think we should stop calling him a preacher. He's a great encourager. And he encouraged us through a time that was tough. Like we'd put him on in the car and it's like, okay.
Yeah, it did help. It did help.
Yeah. But your son, Lynn asked him if he preferred doing vacuuming or their laundry. He said laundry. He prefers the laundry.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. He's so cute.
Yeah, I agree, Albert. I agree. I have the comments over here. Albert says Jordan Peterson's trying to think his way to God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
he's wrestling it out for sure.
Yeah. And I do get concerned about Christians thinking that they need to have fancy words and be super articulate, or that they need to be like these guys that are debating. You know, they get on, they're debating their points, and that's a certain skill, by the way.
Yep.
Like debating like that. Usually, the ones that are the best are like have legal backgrounds. You know that because that's what you do. I remember when we did debate in high school. Oh my goodness, it was like, especially you had to debate a side that you didn't agree with, but you had to try it. It takes a certain skill, and I get concerned that Christians think that, well, I need to win an argument. I need to be able to do that. And I think you need to be able to know your values, know what you stand for, learn to articulate it.
Yep.
But it's not about winning arguments. Because sitting there arguing with an atheist is not going to win over their heart.
Right.
Unless you have a heart-to-heart conversation at some point. And that's what I'm interested in.
Correct.
If somebody wants to have a heart-to-heart conversation, yeah, let's do it. Now, if I'm there to like win, like get that win and go, I told you, and get a quick YouTube short and like, see, told them, watch the clip where Mark DeJesus blasts so-and-so. Right? It's such good. It's clickbait though. People love it.
Max just posted Psalm 46.
Which verse, buddy?
Which verse, Max? He's so cute. Goodness gracious, he's so cute.
Max, you're a legend.
I know, he really is. Well, okay, so for how we're going to post this, because it's got two.
Yeah, it'll be posted.
So it'll just be
posted as two things.
Okay.
Maybe the first one will be the Bible study, because it got.
I think it's because just so everyone knows too, it cut off right near the end, and then Mark prayed, so it'll finish out right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What really, is he serious? I Am Legend Will Smith. Wait, did someone ask him about movies? Why did he post I Am Legend Will Smith?
I think he's movies. Yeah, probably somebody's asking about movies.
Oh, he said the whole chapter, babe, of Psalm 46.
Oh, okay.
He is so funny. You need to have him on the
Miss
show
Hibiscus
again.
says Mark DeJesus destroys atheism podcast.
Right. Oh, goodness. So it's raining outside, everybody.
Oh, it is? Here?
Yeah. It's
Again?
pouring again, babe. I know. I know.
My lawn is turning into a mud pile. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been quite a journey, and I've had a good time though. But we're going to wind this down. We'll be back towards the end of June. We'll send out an email, let you guys know when we'll be back with Sunday Live, and we're looking forward to it. Anything you want to say before we go?
No. Thank you for sticking with us, those of you that stuck with us through this. And at least you know with us, there's always a good story, number one.
Yeah.
And there's always something exciting that can just happen really fast.
Right. Absolutely. It's always
never boring with us.
It's always an adventure.
Yeah. Maybe when we come back, we'll have 100,000. We can celebrate that.
It's going to happen while
it's probably while we're on vacation.
Yep. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Laud Willen and the Creek Don't Rise. This is your brother from another mother.
And your sister from another mister.
Saying we'll be back with more insights for your healing and freedom journey. But in the meantime,
are we out?